Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Kieran Doherty, who in addition to being a friend, an outstanding drummer, a husband, a dad, and last but not least, an award-winning photographer. Welcome to the podcast, Kieran.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you on. Detecting a little accent there. You're from...
It's an English accent you can detect. Yeah, just a little one there.
So, you're from England. And how did this whole business start? How did you end up start taking pictures?
How did I start taking pictures? My dad was a good photographer. Always had a camera. And I think I got to my 17th birthday and he gave his cameras to my sister. Now, I had no interest in the cameras at the time, but I suddenly had an interest when I found he gave them to my sister. So I demanded that I have them. I had to do some sort of swap, but I got the cameras. But I didn't really use them. I really wanted to be an artist. I wanted to paint, but I wasn't good enough in my own eyes. I was okay, but not good enough. So the camera became a tool for me to create and express myself. And I did a degree course after school in sports science, and then I went on to do...
Oops.
Yeah.
Same here, by the way.
Hey, listen, it was a great course. I had 3 years playing tennis and football. I mean, come on. It was a great course. So, I wasn't really good enough to get onto an art foundation course, so I did the sports course, and then I wanted to concentrate on doing a course in photography. So my mum found a course for me, and there was only one course in the country, and they only took 12 people. And normally you had to apply 5 or 6 times to get on. And so I applied for the course, I went for an interview, and I showed a portfolio of appalling black and white pictures that I'd shot. I mean, really appalling. I'd gone to a couple of music festivals and I had pictures of dribbling babies in prams. I mean, this is what I took to my interview. But they put me on the reserve list, so I was number 13. And it meant that I wasn't going to get on the course because they were only taking 12. Right. So my mum, every day for about 6 months, rang the head tutor and said, come on, put him on the course. And come on, put him on the course. And after 6 months, he just thought, oh, to stop this woman calling me every day. Okay. And he put me on as number 13.
Nice.
On the course. And I did the course, and I ended up spending most of my weekends traveling at home, down to an agency at home, where you were really working. So the course was teaching you how to do stuff, but the job that I wanted to do, you can't learn it in a classroom, really. It's a bit of common sense and just reacting to the environment around you. So I used to spend my weekends traveling home and working for a real agency, and they would just send me out on stuff, and I would be shooting pictures, developing transparencies, black and whites, printing, putting it on wire drums, sending it into the papers, in the real world. And that's what I do on my weekends, and then I go back to the course. And I just felt the course was really dragging for me. But I finished it, and the route is you join a regional newspaper, and then you sort of cut your teeth in the industry. Then you go to maybe a big provincial paper, and then you head down to maybe London for a work on a national, and then maybe after the national you might consider working on an agency. Well, I didn't have time for any of that, so I just went straight down to London out of college, and tried to get a job. But what you end up doing is you go around and you just spec pictures into newspapers. So you find a job, you shoot it, you ring them up and you say, I have this great picture and you really should have it. And they would say, okay, bring it in, and you would take it in and they go, thanks, but we had our own photographer there and blah, blah. So I did this for 2 or 3 years, not really getting anywhere. And I learned a few tricks of the trade, which is you turn up to a news event that's happening and you shoot the pictures, and then you ring the desk, the wire desk, wherever it is you want to sell the picture to, and you say, listen, very few people were here, and this is a big story, and really you can't afford not to take this from me because your opposition was here, and I think you really should see this picture. So they'd say, come in, and I went in once and I'd shot this picture of this tank that appeared outside the High Court in London, and coming out of this tank was a 20-foot marlin. It was just the most ridiculous thing, and it was some guy protesting about a divorce he was going through.
Mm-hmm. So he just loaded up the tank.
Yeah, just headed out the court.
It's legit.
Yep. And I was driving past with a friend, and I thought I better shoot that picture, and I shot that picture, and I rang up and I said, listen, Associated Press were here, Reuters, you really should take this picture of me. And I went in, and it was such a ridiculous looking image that they said, great, we'll take it. And so they just snip the negatives, because it was film in those days. They take 3 negatives, the one in the middle they want up is the one they scan. And that was £75 in my pocket. And I just thought, right, I need to keep doing this. And I said, so if I come in here with a picture, do you give me £75 every time I come in? They said, well, every picture we take, we'll pay you £75. So, of course, I just kept ringing them and kept ringing them and kept ringing them. And eventually they cottoned on to the amount of £75 they were giving me in a day. And they said, okay, listen, we'll put you on shift. So we will pay you £100 and you will work 5 shifts. We will stop paying you 5 times 75 every time you come in. And that's how it started. And so it's a bit of luck and a bit of determination. And yeah, that's how I got into it. And if I'm totally honest, I really didn't know that sort of job existed. I'd seen magazines by photographers like Don McCullen, who used to shoot the Troubles in Northern Ireland in the early days, and I used to see his spreads on the Sunday Times, but it never dawned on. I used to look at the images, was mesmerized by these black and white images, but never put 2 and 2 together and worked out, well, sorry, so this is obviously a job and somebody does this and he's paid to do this. And so, yeah, it sort of dawned on me this is an existence that I really quite like, because I don't have to wear a suit. I can wear jeans and a T-shirt, and I can just shoot and create, and I can earn a living. And that's really how it started.
And then you ended up staying at Reuters for, what, 10 years?
No, from 1993 to 2008. Mm. So I was freelance until 2000, and then in 2000, which was really fortuitous because my first daughter was born, they made me staff. So there was the security of the job there. And then I resigned in 2008. So I'd sort of done my stint as staff, and I decided that I wanted to move on to other things. But yeah, it was a bumpy road, but it was, and I couldn't have asked for a better grounding into photojournalism than working for a wire agency like Reuters, because you just got to cover everything, from spot news, from something that was happening in Downing Street, to covering Wimbledon, to covering World Cups, Olympic Games, war zones, you name it. There was nothing a wire agency photographer didn't cover. And so, you know, literally you could come off from shooting a Champions League football match, and the next day you could be in Afghanistan shooting a news story. That's how it worked, and that's incredibly intoxicating, especially when you're a young guy. You know, I mean, I didn't get to travel immediately. Obviously, I had to cut my teeth, and they had to trust that they could send me away. And I must admit, it took a couple of years. And in fact, my first assignment by my line manager, he just said to me one Friday night, "I need to go to Belfast for July the 12th for the Troubles." And I said, "Oh yeah, I can't." And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, I've got a gig tonight. I'm playing in London, and there are 13 other people in the band, and if I get on a plane, they're not going to have a drummer." Wrong answer. So you went to Belfast? No.
Oh, you didn't. You held the gig.
No, I took the gig.
Bros before.
Yeah. Because I didn't realize. I was too naive to realize the implications of why you know, this guy wants to work for Reuters, and I'm going to send him to Belfast to cover the Troubles, and he wants to play drums in a club.
Yeah.
So I learnt that lesson pretty quick.
How long did it take to get another offer to travel like that?
I think the Belfast offer was 95, and then I ended up traveling literally 98.
So they put you on the bench for 3
That was
years.
it. I mean, yeah, totally. But when I did get to go, he waited till I'd been married a month and then said to me, I need you to go away for 4 months. And I'm just married, you know. I've been married for a month and you want me to go. And it was the Caribbean, believe it or not, to photograph cricket. England against the West Indies. So it wasn't that tough a gig. And I ended up being able to take my wife with me as well. So,
you can't complain about that at all.
Not at all.
At all.
Not at all. We had a great time.